In this video, I'm going to tell you how to set up a top belay using an ATC or a tube style device. There's a few different devices here, but I'm going to use the ATC from Black Diamond. And there's basically 3 steps when you get up to this anchor to set this up. And it's a really important skill if you want to go multi-pitching. So I'm going to break it down into those 3 steps. If you don't know, my name is Mike Vert. I've been climbing for 11 years, and this YouTube channel is all about helping you get the skills to get outside quickly. So we're going to get straight into it. So a top belay is used on a multi-pitch route when you climb up to a certain belay station. Then you need to bring up your climber to you. So you're basically setting a top rope from the top. So I'm going to show you all the steps to do that once you get to the top of a pitch. So first of all, let's talk about equipment. So lots of ways to do this, but the way that I'm doing this uses this equipment. 1 offset D is going to be used for my personal anchor. I have 2 HMS carabiners. You'll see how I use those. Then I have a 3rd HMS carabiner linked to my ATC. And then I have a 120 centimeter sling with 2 non-lockers. Okay, so I brought you a bit closer so you can see better. So there's lots of different fixed gear that you're going to come up to when you're on a multi-pitch. I decided to go with a really minimal 2 bolts, which happens sometimes, just so you can see how to navigate that, because once you add rappel rings and chains, it actually becomes easier a lot of the time. So I want to show you kind of on hard mode. So step 1 of the 3 steps is personal anchoring in. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put my D-shaped carabiner there. You want to clip the rope in, and then if you don't know how to do the one-handed belay or clove hitch yet, then you can learn that. You can slow that down or watch my specific video. Now, what I might want to do is adjust this clove hitch so that I'm kind of a bit more snug on it. And then for the temporary time, I'm okay with just being on this 1 bolt while I build an anchor. If these bolts look questionable, then I might use a 2nd locker and clip it there, or just use a quick draw to clip this to either this carabiner or the hanger. But usually in this scenario, I'm comfortable for this very short moment just to be relying on this 1 bolt. But that depends on the bolt condition. So that's step 1. Number 2 is I'm going to set up an anchor. So I have my 120 sling here. The way I have this racked, I just undo one of these. I clip it, untwist. Then I'm going to unclip this again, clip it to 1 strand, and then this opens up completely. Then I'm going to clip underneath my personal anchor, because otherwise it'll get kind of pinned there, and I don't want that. Then I'm going to pull this nice and snug, get all the twisty boys out of it. See, there's one twisty boy that's just stuck in there, but whatever, not a big deal. The next thing I'm going to do is the height of your belay matters a lot for kind of comfort and just ease of belaying. So you can see here, if I was to tie a figure 8 in here, which is what I'm going to do, it would be sitting really low. So it might not look very low, but if it's at chest level, because you're navigating the rope underneath it and the top belay adds a bit of length, you're going to be bent over a lot. So I actually want this up a little bit higher, and I'm going to show you how I can do this with the 120 very simply. It's a cool little trick. So rather than tying it from here, I could double up the sling, but instead what I'm going to do is it's almost like a 1/3. So rather than doubling it up, I'm just going to get the twist out here. Rather than doubling it up, you could actually feed the sling through, and then you match all of the strands right here. And now, rather than half, it's almost like you've cut off 1/3. And from there, you could do your figure 8. So I'm going to grab this, I'm going to wrap around. I'm actually going to do an overhand, not a figure 8. And the reason for that is it takes up way less material, especially when you're using all of this. It's not the cleanest knot ever, but honestly, I don't mind, just because there's so many strands through here, and this is going to be easy to undo regardless. So that's that situation. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the actual top belay. So real quick before I do this, my personal anchor is now equalized on here. So this is considered redundant at this point, so I'm a bit more comfy there. If you wanted to, you could switch your personal anchor here using a 2nd locker, put it on the master point, X, Y, and Z, totally up to you, but that is the situation here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my ATC or tube style device on the anchor. So you can see I have it clipped through already with this HMS going through this loop. So not the traditional way you'd clip it, it's through here. And then when I clip, I want it oriented ideally so that the mouth or these holes of the tube style device are facing out. What I don't want is them facing in. It just makes it a little bit harder to belay and the rope gets a bit more rubbed against the wall. So depending on your anchor orientation, you'll have to do different things, but I like having this facing out. Okay, so I'm locking that. Bam. So now I have my anchor set up, my tube style device set up. And actually at this point, this is where I will start pulling in rope. So people do this different ways. I like setting up my whole top belay setup before I start pulling in rope. So anyway, then I'm gonna pull in the rope. You can either lap coil or put a pile of rope underneath you. So just imagine I pull up all the rope, pull up a little bit just to simulate what this looks like. Okay, then your climber is gonna say, that's me when you reach them. And at that point, you're gonna feed the rope into this device. So the way to do that is there is the climber side and the brake hand side. And we actually still want to maintain that orientation. So you have to use your brain here because the climber isn't right beside you, so it's easier to load this in the wrong direction. And I've had someone do that for me. Luckily I didn't follow what was happening, but it is not a locking device. It's not a proper blade setup if it is going through the wrong orientation. So be really, really vigilant at this point about how you put this in. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna push the rope in. If this is my climber side on the left, and this is the brake hand side, I'm going to push it in with the climber side on top. So that's the further side that is not on the teeth, and then the brake hand side is here. And then I'm going to use my other HMS and clip it in here. Bam. Now this is a full setup for a top belay on the ATC. Double check all my lockers. Anchor looks solid. Once again, this isn't the prettiest anchor ever, but she works. And what's going to happen here is if they fall, you can see it pinches the rope into the teeth. So the brake strand obviously is maintained. I'm pulling them up, And if they fall, it pinches the rope in the teeth. So it's going to lock and they can have all their weight on it, pull on it really hard. And you can see all of the forces going through the device. So it's actually almost more effective than belaying in a lead or top belay setup with the ATC because the reliance on the hand is slightly less. You still want your hand on the brake strand at all times. If you are going to take your hand off the brake strand, tie a catastrophe knot or lots of different words for this knot. Basically, you tie one of those in just in case, so it can get jammed in there. There's a few other specifics on the ATC top belay setup. Different than the gree-gree, this is a lot more difficult to lower people. So there's a few different ways to do that. And I'll probably make a separate video about that specifically, just so this doesn't run on too long. But yeah, this is how I would do it. Now the reason that I have this extra HMS for a few reasons. If I wanted to move this personal anchor somewhere else, I can, clip it onto the shelf and drop down my personal anchor to here, which sometimes I do. I can do it to the master point. I can also set it up so that my buddy, when he comes up to me, has something to personal anchor to. So if I have this set up here already, then when he or she gets up to me, they can just quickly throw a clove hitch in and all solid. Yeah. And then if you were to switch, I'll just say this really quickly, even though it's not a really top belay setup. When it's time for if your partner's leading the next pitch, if they've already personal anchored in, what's great about this is that you can just unclip this. Honestly, these days I use the gree-gree for a top belay a lot of the time. I just have it on me. It's easier to lead belay with for me. But if I'm doing kind of bigger mountain missions and I don't want that extra weight to carry a gree-gree and a tube style device, because I always have a tube style device for rappelling on multi-pitches, then I can just defer to just having the ATC. Sometimes if you're taking out someone who's less experienced, you might have a tube style device and a gree-gree, in which case they're gonna need to belay you probably with the gree-gree, so you need to know this ATC method. If you like videos like this and you want to learn more skills about outdoor climbing, I have a 30-day climbing program called Rock Ready, and it helps you get all the skills from belaying, lead climbing, anchor building, rappelling, multi-pitch skills, cleaning anchors. So if that sounds interesting and you want to get outdoors, I have a whole library of videos and I support you one-on-one. check the link in the description and you'll learn way more about that. It's called Rock Ready 30. I would love to see you in there. So click the link. Peace.